Now we're going to bring you this week's Asia View. It's our weekly look at Asia with our correspondent Yena Lee, who joins us now from Beijing. Yena, you may just have noticed we're a day before the US elections. And of course, China-US relationships set to be a major foreign policy priority for the incoming president. You're going to be talking a lot about trade and Taiwan in the coming few days. But for today's show, you wanted to discuss something that doesn't always make the headlines. It's about academic exchanges.
Absolutely, Stuart. I want to talk about academic exchanges and to what extent they have dwindled in recent years. Now, the reason for this, firstly, we can point to the pandemic that certainly has slowed the numbers down. The economy is also not so great here in China, meaning perhaps people who could afford it before can't afford now to go to the US. Then there have been a set of rules on the US side that have had an impact on these exchanges. The US has long been the top destination for Chinese students studying abroad. President Xi Jinping's daughter famously studied at Harvard. Between 2009 and 2019, the number of Chinese students in the US tripled. For universities, international students can be a source of talent, they can be a source of revenue, and most importantly, their presence is an occasion for cultural exchange between students and with the faculty. But their number has been falling since a Trump-era proclamation that bars entry to Chinese students with suspected links to the Chinese military. Last year, a record 36% of visa demands were rejected. Currently, there are some 290,000 Chinese students in the US, down from 370,000 in 2019. But get this, there are only around 800 US students studying here in China now, compared to 11,000 back in 2019. Presidents Biden and Xi have pledged to improve academic exchanges, so we could assume that a Harris presidency would take a similar stance, but a second Trump presidency could be rather detrimental. In fact, he is likely to take things further and bring back the China Initiative, which was a crackdown on industrial espionage that ended up being criticized by academics and civil rights groups and described as a witch hunt against Chinese students and against Chinese American academics. So it really is a tricky line for governments to take espionage threats very seriously without harming people-to-people relations and also without harming their own research goals. I'm going to end with this. Science review Nature actually argued in a recent editorial that there is, I quote, too much talk about the risks of collaboration and too little about the benefits.
Yeah, now let's move on to another topic that's generated a lot of controversy. A pregnant surrogate mother reportedly abandoned by a surrogacy agency. Tell us about this. It left her to deal with the situation. What happened?
Well, an anti-human trafficking activist actually posted a story about a 28-year-old anonymous woman's ordeal, and it went viral, eventually prompting authorities to even investigate the issue. Now, what happened was this surrogate mother became pregnant after an IVF attempt, but the middleman who was organizing this service refused to believe that the baby was his client's and proceeded to block her, leaving her in the lurch. She spoke to a local newspaper outlet and told them that she was supposed to be paid 26,000 euros, and this money was supposed to help her as she was in some financial difficulty, but instead she was left with no help to either maintain or to terminate the pregnancy. As surrogacy is illegal in China, it's really risky business for anyone involved, making it particularly difficult for women to seek help in such situations. Online, the criticism has been really harsh towards the clinic, towards the agent, and also towards the surrogate mother. And this is a case that really is reminiscent of a massive scandal that was reported by a local TV network back in August. They uncovered an underground surrogacy business in China's East Qingdao province, and authorities have since arrested some of the doctors and businessmen who were reportedly involved in that.
Finally, Yena, we're going to talk about the space race, aren't we? Chinese space crew just landing in the last few hours, actually, back on Earth.
Yes, Stuart, 3 men from Shenzhou 18, they exited their space capsules in the very early hours of Monday morning in Inner Mongolia, the Chinese region. The Chinese Space Agency says that all three men are in good health, and state television even reported that they had made requests for their first meals back on Earth even before they had landed. These men had spent 6 months on the Tiangong space station studying things like ancient microbes. They also did some maintenance work up there, making sure that the station is protected from space debris. Their return to our planet comes just days after a 3-crew team replaced them on the station, because they have this rotating shift, meaning that the Tiangong is never really empty. The Chinese created Tiangong, or Heavenly Palace, after effectively being excluded from the International Space Station as the US refuses to collaborate on space missions due to national security concerns. In any case, China is fast catching up in these areas as NASA suffers from budgetary cuts. Beijing moves full steam ahead towards President Xi Jinping's ultimate goal to put a man or a woman up on the moon before 2030.
Yeah, great pictures while you're talking there, Yena. Thanks very much for joining us, Yena Lee, there, our correspondent, talking to us as ever at this time on a Monday from Beijing. Thanks very much. I'm sure we will talk to Yena during the US election campaign over the next few days.